Hello and welcome to Polyplane.com. Today we're doing a plugin review, so if you don't use Rhino, this might not help you, but I still think you might find it interesting. Today's plugin is called Paneling Tools. The Paneling Tools plugin is much like the Array Along a Surface command, where you can take either a 2D or 3D element and array it along a surface. However, it gives you much more control and a lot of cool parameters that you wouldn't otherwise be able to achieve. To get the plugin, you can go to wiki.mcneil.com/lab/panelingtools. The link will be down below. So let's check it out. Now I've already installed Paneling Tools on this copy of Rhino, but if you need to, there's a guide down below on how to install plugins, but you just go down to Plugins, Install, pick the plugin you want, hit Open, and hit OK. That's all there is to it. When you install it, you'll see there's a new menu item up above called Paneling Tools. The Paneling Tools plugin breaks down into essentially 3 steps: creating a control grid, defining a shape, and then arraying that shape or form throughout the grid. So I'll go ahead and make a basic grid on this plane here. I've got a surface. I'm going to just click on Paneling Tools, Create Paneling Grid, and then I'm going to use Surface Domain. And you'll see a bunch of points come across, and you have some options up here. We're going to make this a 10 by 10 grid. 10 in the U, 10 in the V, and enter. And a couple of things happen. 1, you get your points and they're all grouped together here. And 2, if I were to ungroup these and click on one of the points, the point has a name. And this is really important because the geometry that you build off of these points is going to be looking for those names as reference points. So I'm going to undo that ungroup so they're still together. And now I'm going to create a paneling set from this grid here, just a 2D. That's asking for a base surface. And now you can see how it's using those points to kind of define where the pattern goes. And there's a few different patterns here in the presets. You can save your own. Diamond set, we'll do triangular, box, dense, wave is kind of neat. The cool thing about this now is you have this group of curves that you could then extrude. And there's a really cool tool in the Paneling Tools called, under Paneling utility, called Fin Edges. And you select your base surface and it just extrudes out all those curves. So this is kind of boring on a flat plane, but let's see what it looks like on something else. I've got a few other patterns here that I want to go over. So here I have a surface and it's got a little bit of an undulation to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I already have my grids arrayed, but I'm going to do a paneling from grid custom 2D, and it's going to ask me for the points to array it through. Hit enter, a base surface, and then it's asking me for the custom 2D pattern. So I'm just going to use this octagon here and hit enter. And it's going to ask me if that array looks good. And you can change this up at the top, like I could do 2, V spacing of 2, but I want to keep these close together. So I'm just going to bring those back to 1 by 1 and hit enter. And it gives you a nice array pattern along there. Now you can do the same thing of thinning those out on this more organic surface, and now you can see what's starting to happen. It's extruding off of that surface. Now this plugin is really good for architecture and doing like really cool organic buildings and that sort of thing. It's also good to help you understand how patterns, 3D and 2D patterns, work together. So here I've got sort of a 3D basket weave pattern, and what I'm going to do is I've got another surface over here, and I'm going to delete this second point at grids here and show you this custom 3D grid. So same thing, I've got a surface and I've created my point grid, but in order to use the custom 3D tool, you actually need a second set of points to define the Z height. So what I'll do is I'll go down to grid utility, and I'm going to offset the points. And it's asking for a base surface. And I had the height set at 0.5, so they're not too high. Okay, now when you have a set of points like this, you can actually bend them and move them around. So I'm going to rotate this set of points just a little bit. We'll remove everything else from the scene for a second so you can really see what's going on here. So there's an array of points that's on this surface here. You can see those. And then the secondary set that I made and rotated. And I'm actually going to bend that second set of points too, just to really drive home the point of how you can edit these. And then what I'm going to do is hit Paneling Tools, paneling from grid, custom 3D, and then it's going to ask me for the first bounding grid, hit enter, second bounding grid, hit enter, and you can also have bounding surfaces for this as well, but we're not going to worry about that. And I'm going to hit enter, and then it's going to ask me for the objects. So just like the custom 2D, I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to give me a preview of what I'm going to see as the array. And that pattern looks pretty good, so I'll hit enter again. And it's going to take a minute to build it out, but once it's done, you can see what it's done. It's arrayed them based upon those grid points, and the further the points are away from each other in the two grids, the higher your shape is going to be, and then the closer they are together, the more shallow they're going to be. So you can really create some really dynamic shapes and patterns using this system. And it doesn't just have to be a surface, it could be a sphere. I'm going to do the regular 3D paneling on this one. So we need to create a paneling grid. And I'm going to do surface domain again, select my shape and hit enter. So you can see it arrays those around based on the shape. So we're going to increase this up to like 50 and 50. Make a really dense grid on this sphere here and hit enter. And then I'm going to offset these offset points. Let's do that again. I want the distance to be a little bit more, like 1. Select my points, hit enter, select my base surface. Okay, so now we'll remove the spheres from there for a second, and I'm just going to select the inner sphere so you can really see how those offset. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the sphere back because I'm going to need it. I'm going to do a paneling 3D grid, first paneling grid, second paneling grid. And type, I'm going to do Pyramid 2, which is one of the presets. You can save your own custom 3D patterns too here. So it's asking me for that first grid and then the second grid. And it's going to think for a minute, and then it's going to make this crazy sphere of pyramids. So you can see it used that second grid to define how far out the spikes of the pyramid were going to go. Let's try a different shape. Delete these two grids for a second. So we'll do paneling tools, create paneling grid, surface domain, and I'm going to change this to like 12. Okay. And then I'm going to create a 2D grid using these paneling points. Hit enter, base surface. And then we're going to use the triangular. No, let's go with brick. Now it's connecting those points from points. It's not using the surface at this point. But I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hide that for a second just to take a look at what our curves look like. Now you can see that the pattern connects from point to point, which is going to be really cool when we do the finning. So I'm going to fin the edges, select these curves, hit enter, collect my base surface, and then you get this really cool, like, you know, that'd be a really cool paper cut lamp or something. I don't know. But anyway, I just want to give you a preview of what you can possibly do with the paneling tools system. And if you have the Rhino 5 beta, you can check it out for that. It works the same. So yeah, check it out and see what kind of cool stuff you can come up with. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.